Being a Mandalorian's not just learning about how to fight. You also have to know how to navigate the galaxy. That way, you'll never be lost.
Efter godt 2 års ventetid er dusørjægeren Din Jarin og hans nuttede følgesvend Grogu tilbage i en ny sæson af The Mandalorian.
I'm going to Mandalore, so that I may be forgiven for my transgressions.
May the Force be with you!
This is the way.
Vi har talt med Star Wars-seriens ekstremt succesfulde skaber, producer og hovedforfatter Jon Favreau. Og hvis I ikke genkender hans navn, så genkender I stensikkert hans ansigt fra Marvel-filmene, hvor I han i årevis har spillet Iron Mans bodyguard, Happy Hogan.
Who are you? I work with Spider-Man. You work for Spider-Man? I work with Spider-Man, not for Spider-Man.
Og ikke nok med det, Favreau instruerede også den første Iron Man-film fra 2008.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Og således kickstartede han filmhistoriens mest succesfulde franchise, nemlig Marvels MCU-saga. Men allerede i 1996 brød Favreau igennem som både skuespiller og manuskriptforfatter på komediedramaet Swingers.
Mikey's the big winner. Mikey wins.
En lille film, som endte med at indtjene 33 gange så meget, som den havde kostet at lave, og som derved tidligt cementerede Favreaus status som en træfsikker hitmager. Og det er en fornem status, som Favreau har holdt ved lige i årenes løb. Ikke blot på grund af Marvel-filmene, men også takket være blandt andet Disneys genindspilninger af Junglebogen og Løvernes konge, som Favreau instruerede, og som tilsammen indtjente næsten $3 milliarder.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Og i 2019 pustede han nyt liv i Star Wars-universet, da han skabte The Mandalorian. Serien har allerede vundet hele 14 Emmy-priser, og den er blevet et verdensomspændende kulturfænomen, særligt takket være førnævnte Grogu, der nok er bedre kendt som Baby Yoda.
Hi, Grogu!
The Mandalorian foregår i årene mellem den oprindelige Star Wars-trilogi og den nyeste trilogi. Det er en tid, hvor imperiet ligger i ruiner, og hvor galaksen forsøger at finde hoved og hale i et nyt magthierarki.
There's something dangerous happening out there. And by the time it becomes big enough for you to act, it'll be too late.
Mandalorianeren kæmper for at genvinde sin ære, mens han passer på Grogu i en fjern galakse, hvor de onde kræfter ser ud til at vokse sig stærke igen.
Did you think your dad was the only Mandalorian?
Oh, now what's behind you? Are those DVDs?
Those are DVDs and Blu-rays, about
Oh, my.
3,000 of them, actually.
Oh,
my home library.
There it is. People are going to wonder what that is.
I know, because it's from a galaxy far, far away, you know, a long time ago.
We could fit that all on a phone now, everything you got behind you.
I know, exactly, but it doesn't beat, you know, this. I even have, I still want to show you one of my crown jewels. This is the original trilogy theatrical editions on Laserdisc.
Is that before the special edition?
Now, for its 20th anniversary, the adventure of a lifetime returns to the big screen with newly enhanced visual effects and a few new surprises.
Those are the before the special edition. I actually wanted to ask, I know this is a bit of a, of a hot potato subject, but don't you have enough clout at Lucasfilm now to get the theatrical editions re-released? I want to see Sebastian Shaw's Ghost in a high definition.
Do you think anybody but us, like the people who grew up with it, like anybody would care? Because I know to younger people, that's what I figured out, that the younger people have a whole different perception of what Star Wars is. You know, each generation, for the millennials, it's it's the prequels. And for younger people, and Zoomers, sometimes it's the Clone Wars. I've seen people come up to Dave Filoni, and that's their entree into it. And that's part of what we were doing with The Mandalorian. We were trying to say, hey, let's try to do something that's good for us, the people who've been around watching these movies since they were 10 years old. And also, could we make it for like new people who've never seen Star Wars? So could we start with new characters? And that, that seems to have worked out pretty good, because I think there's a lot of people who've checked this out that might not have been up on everything in all the material that's been out, because there is a lot now. There's a lot to keep up on. I have a whole team. I have people from Lucasfilm and ILM, people who worked with George. Like, it's a full-time job just to keep everything straight. So for a casual fan, that's really asking a lot from what everything is.
Yeah, so it is like a balancing act, like you say, of appeasing, of course, the older fans who've grown up with this, like maybe years and decades ago, like you and me, and also these newer, younger fans, the Zoomers, And speaking of balancing acts, you're all obviously also a huge fan of this franchise and have been since you were a kid. And at the same time, you're also very much a seasoned storyteller. So in terms of the balancing act of utilizing and developing the elements that we already know and love about Star Wars while forging your own creative path through this galaxy, that must be a tough balancing act.
It's only tough when it's not working out. Right now, people like the show and they're excited to see what's coming next. Like, that's such a huge gift. Every time you make a new movie, you don't know if people are going to like it, not going to like it. With TV, when you come back for another season, they're stoked. They want to see what happens. You know, they want to make sure you don't mess it up, too. You have to keep your standards high, and you got to keep surprising them and impressing them. But once you have those characters in that relationship, it's like playing with a band that you've played with for a long time. You know, each time you're doing a movie, it's like you're forming a new band. And you don't know if that band's going to, you know, think of all the great musicians that have had good bands and bad bands, you know. And it's about chemistry. And so this band I'm in now has chemistry, and we're continuing to, I don't want to give it up. I really love the tools that we have, the actors that we're working with, the producers that we're working with, the stories that we're coming up with, and the whole time frame that we get to play with. But developing new tools is also a big part of Star Wars and always has been from the beginning. Lucas built the tools to show things that he came up with in his imagination. And you're getting all this great motion control, miniature work, and and eventually CG characters for the prequels. So he's really been an innovator, and that we could do that. I think that also answers your question in a way that, story's one thing, and another thing is how do you do the stuff that has this kind of a scope and scale and innovation.
Mm. And of course, like you said, you spoke about needing to have a team to keep track of all this continuity that you got going. Yeah. Is it a challenge also as a storyteller to sort of knowing where this universe, this galaxy of Star Wars is like 20, 25 years down the road in terms of the sequel trilogy, and having to match up with that? Yeah,
it's a little closer than that now. Now we've been on the air a little bit. But yeah, there's it's interesting because what's come before, and then in our time period, there's also been extended universe fiction. There's characters that have been slowly introduced in the Clone Wars, like Thrawn. So there's a lot of stuff that's in canon, like canon proper, but I think there's different tiers of things that we really look to the fans of seeing what they embrace too. So it's not like a science. There's definitely a conversation that's going on, and then also what happens after the sequel trilogy. Because the sequel trilogy only takes place over the course of a few years. And it's something that, it's a big thing on the screen and it's very eventful. But it is a very, it is a relatively brief moment in history over the course of the thousands of years that Star Wars takes place. And so what happens after it is interesting too. And I know that there's some discussion and exploration going on about what happens after it. So I think that there are certain markers that we have. It's almost like studying ancient history, where you kind of know a few things that happened, but there's a lot of murkiness in between, and we just don't have archaeological evidence in the real world to know exactly what happened, and so we kind of connect the dots. And if you look at somebody like George R.R. Martin and his novels, it's really interesting to see how he treats these things, because he really does treat it like history. Sometimes you have stories told from different perspectives. Sometimes you have flawed storytellers. Sometimes you have different versions. And of course, you have different media, right? You have the books and you have the shows. And that interplay and that level of sophistication, and I think also having somebody like one author of it really adds to the complexity that you can have. And so how do we emulate that with the teams that we have both at Lucasfilm, ILM, and on the team of our shows? How do we all work together and try to formulate that kind of consistency?
Jon, I'm being asked to wrap up, so just quickly yes or no, because I know millions of us can't sleep at night not knowing the answer to this. I don't know if you can answer this, but I just want to know, is Grogu in the Jedi Temple when Kylo Ren goes berserk? I want to, yes or no?
In the Jedi Temple? In Luke's temple.
Yeah.
Well, we know he lives through it, right? Isn't that? Oh, we don't know if he lives through it, do we? That's after. No, wait a minute. No, that would have been before. So we don't know, right? Well, what evidence do we have? Let's reverse engineer this. What do we know? We know, how old is Kylo Ren when those events in the flashback happen?
Oh, he is, I guess, about 20, so I guess it's like 10, 15 years. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm out of time.
Oh, okay.
I'm just glad to hear that you don't say, John, that we're not definitely sure that he's killed. So that's just what I want to do.
Yeah, I'm not gonna answer that question because I have to consider everything that I say very carefully around these events.
Of course.
Yes.
Hang on. You ready for an adventure?